Welcome to our city council meeting, the last day of February 2022. Thank you for attending our meeting. Those who are online with us and those who are here in person. We appreciate your involvement in our city. We'll start our meeting tonight by hearing from Council Member Severn. He's going to give us a thought, an invitation, or whatever he so desires, and lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
You say a benediction or invocation.
I'm all for that.
Benediction.
Let's move to adjourn first.
Should we? Sorry, I got everybody's hopes up. Heavenly Father, we come before thee tonight and we acknowledge our blessings here in the city. We're grateful for the snow that we've been given and are also appreciative that so many people are traveling safely in it. We pray that we might be able to continue to receive what we need for the upcoming summer. We give thanks for the blessings of freedom and liberty. We're grateful for the great country we live in, and pray this night that decisions rendered would be for the best of the city and the citizens. We give thanks for them and we pray for them in their lives, for health and strength to attend those in safety. We give thanks again and we pray for this tonight in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
You'll just repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Severn, for that. Before I forget to, I'd like to excuse Council Member Barker. He's out on some training with the fire department. And so we'll excuse him this evening. Before we enter into our agenda, I'd like to call for any conflicts of interest, perceived or actual, that need to be disclosed. Are there any this evening based upon our agenda? All right. We'll move on to item number 2 on our consent agenda. This is to approve the January 10th, 2023 City Council meeting minutes. Do we have any corrections to those minutes before we enter into a motion?
Just a small correction on page 6 of those meeting minutes.
Okay.
It says 3 lines down when it's talking about ramp. It says dollars collected in Weber County this purpose. It should say dollars collected in Weber County for this purpose.
Okay. Anything else, Councilmember Delpas, on that? No. All right, with that correction then, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the January 10th, 2023 minutes as corrected.
So move.
Councilmember Swanson, thank you very much.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Ekstrom. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to the next item, which is consideration to approve the January 24th, 2023 City Council meeting minutes. Do we have any corrections on those? Seeing none, then I would look for a motion to approve those minutes as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Delpas.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Severing. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. At this point in time, we'll enter into our public comments portion of the meeting. John, if you would watch online to see if we have anyone that would like to comment. Anyone here in the audience, if you'd like to comment, please step up to the podium. I'd ask you to state your name and if you're a resident of North Ogden. And please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes. Anyone online, John? Oh, let's see, we have a comment here.
Hi, my name is Penny Dean and I live at 889 East 2750 North here in North Ogden. My concern is flooding. I live at the dead end of 900, dead ends into my driveway, coming down the hill on 2750. I've had flooding before. My concern is there's been so much buildup on the crown of the road, there's no longer a gutter. All the water runs to my house and down my driveway. Is there anything we can do to resolve it?
Well, we have our public works department head here, Dave.
So I did talk to Casey and Brian. They went over and looked at it today. And we were gonna go out and look at it tomorrow and see what else we can do, but. It sounds a lot like the approach is the issue, and so the city doesn't replace for approaches. So it's just, but anyways, we'll go out.
We'll go and take a look at it. How's that?
Okay, I brought this to the attention of the council once before, probably about 8 years ago. And so it's been a minute, but we haven't had the water and the snow like we have, and this year we've had a bunch of it. And my concern is maybe at a bare minimum, I understand Casey and them were saying that there's probably nothing they can do this year for me. Granted, I totally get it. It's here, right? The melt is right on us, right? So if I could get some help with some sandbags, I would greatly appreciate it to keep the water. Yesterday when we had the flow of water melt yesterday, the melt that we had, I had 3 inches of water at the bottom of my drive in front of my driveway, in front of my garage. There is a lip that goes on my garage, so the driveway goes down and then it goes up a little bit. Thank goodness, so my garage could have been flooded. So anything you could do to help me, I greatly appreciate that.
All right, I saw Dave say we could help with some sandbags there, so
Thank you.
for bringing that to our attention. Any other comments from those in attendance this evening? John, do we have anyone online that would like to comment?
No raised hands.
Okay, let's move on to item number 5. I think this is put on our agenda on request of Council Member Dowpaz. I believe we're going to have a presentation online by Zachary Frankel, who's the Executive Director of Utah Rivers Council. And Anya Corfine, is that proper pronunciation? I think so. All right, who's a Community Water Coordinator. John, if we could bring them online.
We should be able to hear them, I think, if our speakers working.
Yes, good evening, council members. Thank you so much for letting us come speak with you tonight. My name is Zach Frankel. As you mentioned, I'm the executive director of the Utah Rivers Council, and I'm lucky enough to be joined here by Anya. Anya, can you speak as well? Can you hear us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us, council members. My name is Anya Corfine. I'm the community water coordinator with Utah Rivers Council, and we're really excited to be here presenting to you tonight.
Excellent, excellent. So we're here tonight to talk to you about a very popular water conservation program that our organization has been running in northern Utah since 2015. And we just have a few slides we'd like to share with you that help illustrate the program. We're going to run through it as quick as we can. We know you guys have a lot, you folks have a lot on your agenda, and so we'll try and be as brief as possible. And just a little bit of background about the Utah Rivers Council by way of some history. We were started in 1994, and we have been working in northern Utah to conserve water and implement river management policies for Utahns and fish and wildlife species since our inception. And we're really happy to talk to you about this program. It's really a very fun program that Utahns love. So we are starting our 9th year in distributing these rain barrels to northern Utah residents, and we have distributed 8,000 rain barrels over that last 8 years. So we are here today to see if North Ogden would be interested in partnering with us and our existing municipal partners for the spring rain harvest round. We have 11 other municipalities in northern Utah, in Utah County, Salt Lake County, and Summit County that are joining for the program. And I'm just going to go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. If the host could let me share screens, then I just have a few slides that will help illustrate the program a little bit, if it's possible. That I could be allowed to share screens on my computer. There we go. Perfect. Here we go. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Somebody give me a thumbs up.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay, here we go. So Anya, you want to explain a little bit about the benefits of our rain harvest program and these rain barrels, why rain barrels make sense for Northern Utah residents?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to jump into a few benefits. So first and foremost, the overall goal of this project is to conserve water. Sprinklers spraying on sidewalks is an unfortunate and uncommon sight. And these rain barrels really empower individual citizens to take control of their own water conservation, especially with outdoor water use. The rain barrels allow users to become more conscious with their water use and a little more water wise. And overall, we find that the people who receive these rain barrels really enjoy the process of conserving water that way. Another benefit that we found has been really impactful from this program is that rain barrel collection really improves water quality. So stormwater runoff that flows through gutters or sidewalks or streets tend to pick up some really harmful and toxic particulates and pollutants, and collecting the rain water directly into the barrels eliminates that chance for the water to become polluted. So it improves water quality. And of course, that water is the water that eventually flows to the Great Salt Lake. So it overall benefits all of Utah by making sure our water stays as pure as possible, and it does save residents some money. One thing I did want to touch on before we move on is that collecting rainwater is legal in Utah. You might remember prior to 2009, there was some controversy surrounding collection of rainwater, but in 2009, the State House passed a law that allowed each household to collect 2,500 gallons a day. Our rain barrels are 50 gallons, so it would be very difficult to surpass that limit, but we just want to highlight that. And then I'm going to hand it back off to Zach, who's going to talk about the specific rain barrel we've selected and some logistics of our program.
Thank you, Anya. So this is the rain barrel we selected. It's a American-made rain barrel called the Ivy Rain Barrel. As Anya mentioned, it's a 50-gallon water barrel that collects water from the downspout of homeowners' roofs from their rain gutters. And you can't see the top of the barrel, but you can see, you can't see from the top, but you can see where the downspout deposits the water from the roof into the top of the barrel. There's actually a dishy top to it with a screen with holes in it. And the purpose of the screen is to keep mosquitoes out so that we don't have any waterborne diseases like West Nile virus, because the mosquitoes can't go in there and lay their eggs to turn into larvae. So we like that. The lid secures down with 2 tamper-proof security measures to keep children out of jumping into the top. And then you can see on the bottom there in gray is the nozzle where one would connect a standard garden hose. And when after a rainstorm, anywhere from 2 days, 3 days, 5 days after a rainstorm, then the homeowner uses just regular gravity to pull the water out of the barrel with a hose and water a garden or their grass. And so we get that both that water quality and that water conservation benefit. And then if the barrel fills up with 50 gallons, you can see on the right side there is the overflow tube to take the water and deposit it back into the ground. And then if you see on the left side of the barrel, there's a little knob there so that residents can connect them together in tandem and collect 100 gallons or in theory 200 gallons from one downspout. The most commonly asked question we get is how much water can you collect on a home? And that's really a function of the square footage of the roof and the size of the rainstorm. It's been estimated through various studies that we could reduce water demand between 10 and 20% through rain barrel collections if a city comprehensively works to distribute rain barrels to its residents. We selected this rain barrel because it's made of recycled plastic, and we like the fact that it's an American-made company out of North Carolina that's family-owned and very easy to work with. But really our biggest design parameter in selecting this barrel was because it's the hardiest barrel we could find made in America. The return rate for these 8,000 barrels that we've distributed is less than 4 barrels in all of that. And you can see here that the company in the left there has sold 125,000 rain barrels to 120 cities. often through the same kind of mass distribution event that we're here tonight to talk to you about. So the rain barrels are very popular across the United States. Cities do like to use them to get their credits for Clean Water Act compliance, to ensure that they are working to reduce this toxic urban water runoff, which can be quite challenging to comply with TMDL standards. So the way the program works is that our municipal partners, if they choose to participate, they subsidize the price of this barrel only for their residents. So let me just walk through that really briefly. So if I wanted to buy this barrel right now and have it sent to my house, the price to have it shipped to my house would be $138. But what we do is we build a website for the sale that lasts for 6 weeks. And then because we're not delivering the individual rain barrels to people's homes, we take all of the customers that have bought rain barrels and we put them on one truck, the rain barrels on one truck, and we ship it out to Utah. And then the residents come pick up their rain barrels at one centralized distribution location. And we have one distribution location in every county. And because of that mass purchase and the mass shipment and one shipment, we can bring the price down to $83 per barrel. So that's the unsubsidized price. Now, the subsidized price, what we're trying to incentivize is people to buy these rain barrels. So I still have my rain barrels that I bought in 2015, and I still use them. They still work really well. They're really durable. And so that's partly why cities subsidize these barrels. And what we've decided this year is to ask for a $28 subsidy from each, from the cities that are participating for their residents. And that would bring the retail price for residents to purchase barrels down to $55 per barrel. Now, what we are recommending to cities is that we limit the subsidies per household so that, for example, one resident couldn't go buy 10 barrels at the subsidized price and then resell them. What we for that recommend is one subsidy or two subsidies per house, meaning a homeowner can buy one or two $55 barrels. And then the rest of the priced barrels they want to buy are $83. Most people tend to buy 2 barrels, and we have cities that want one subsidy per house, and we have other cities that are willing to give 2 subsidies per house. And so then this is just a quick look at the website. This is a really old version of the website, shrunken down. So this is how we sell the barrels. So if North Ogden did want to subsidize these barrels, then only North Ogden city residents would be able to take advantage of the subsidy, the price of $55. And that's because what Utah Rivers Council and the Rain Barrel Company, the manufacturer, Rainwater Solutions, do, we do all of the logistics from soup to nuts for the whole program if you elect as a city to subsidize barrels for your residents, meaning we build the website, we confirm the residency so that residents of other cities are not using your city's subsidies for their own purpose. So we make sure that the subsidies are only going to North Ogden city residents. We communicate with the customers so that they understand where and when the pickup day and location is so that they can go pick up their barrels. And you can see it in this, I know it's small, but if you look in the top right there of this screen, you can see all the barrels laid out. And there's below it is a Toyota Prius there with several barrels that obviously stack together that fit in there. So virtually any car can pick up its barrels. The average wait time to pick up the barrels is 5 to 10 minutes total. We get people in and out of there very, very quickly. So that's one of the benefits that the cities that keep coming back every year to partner with us on the program enjoy, is that they don't have to come and participate in the program if they don't want to take on the staff time of building the website or doing the customer communications and sales. So it's something that is really popular. We're also happy to write in-house communications for in-house newsletters. This is an example of Murray City's newsletter that they use to promote the rain barrel sales to their residents, and we're happy to produce all the copy customized to your city. Obviously, the benefit for us doing this is conserving water, which is part of our mission. And so I just want to show you, just to wrap up and then open ourselves up to any questions if I wasn't clear about anything. Let me show you what the distribution day is like. And I imagine this is going to be a little bit stuttery because it's video, but you can see these are the customers coming at the Murray City location to pick up their barrels. And so our volunteers and staff work to check them in. We can make sure that as they pull up in their cars, residents are able to motor up, and we make sure that we confirm their order, and they've already confirmed their residency. They've already paid for the barrels. And so they just come up, and you can see how many barrels there. I think this was about 2,000 barrels. Off in the distance, you see the cars lined up. The biggest challenge for us in picking a location is just to make sure that we have a location that's safe. We need to get all the cars off the local roadways to avoid any accidents. So a lot of site planning goes into our logistics in advance before the distribution day. But you can see we have multiple stations loading these barrels at once, and we're pretty quick. And people usually, the only question they want to ask us when they pick up their barrels is that all? Is that all I have to do? So it's quite fast. And with that, I'd like to stop screen sharing. Unless, Anya, did I miss anything? Is there anything I forgot to say?
No, I think that sounds all good. It's a really fun program. It's really popular. And just to reiterate what Zach said, we really handle all of the logistics. What we ask from the city, if they choose to participate, is the subsidy. And then we handle everything from the marketing to the website building to the distribution event.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Council members, are there any questions that anyone has? Oh my gosh, I forgot to even go through the economics. So let me just wrap up with that. Sorry about that. So what we ask for is a minimum number of subsidized barrels of 50 barrels. We're pretty confident we would sell those 50 barrels once we launch the program in mid-March. We do a lot of media to alert the residents of all the cities that these subsidized barrels are available. And usually within the first 2 or 3 days, we have a huge traffic to the website to purchase barrels. And then the pickup is about 6 weeks, 7 weeks later. We keep the website open for 6 weeks, and then the trucks are loaded up and shipped out. So we haven't locked down our pickup dates, but we're looking at the end of April or the beginning of May. Some cities like to combine that with activities. They like to try and get people out of their cars and have some education, or there's been talk of trying to make a celebration. So just so you understand the numbers, for $50 minimum barrel price, $50 minimum barrel quantity with a $28 per barrel subsidy, it's just 50 times 28. So that would be $1,400 is the minimum purchase requirement for 50 barrels. Now, I'm pretty confident we would sell that many barrels in North Ogden. That's if you do one subsidy per house, that's only 50 homes. And after that, of course, you can increase it. We have cities purchasing 200 barrels, 300 barrels. Sometimes some cities want to do 50. So the economics of whether or not you're interested, that's sort of an overlay of them. And if you're interested in doing it this spring, that'd be great. And if it's something you want to consider for next year, that's fantastic as well. And with that, we thank you.
Council, do you have any questions?
We answered mine. I don't have questions, but I would like to discuss. Yeah.
All right, council, why don't you go ahead, Councilmember Delpan?
So as I was hearing all of the information, I don't think we have. So John, maybe you can tell me. In North Ogden, do we have any areas of North Ogden that aren't serviced by Pineview? Because if there are people that are paying for culinary water to do their plants, grass and whatnot, I think that's where this would have some of the biggest benefit, where it would kind of help our culinary load. Do you know if there's any areas?
So they're either on one of our secondary water providers. That's a requirement for subdivision. There might still be one subdivision that's culinary only. But nope, Dave's saying nope, that one got connected to secondary.
Okay.
So
All right. Well, I mean, just the way that I was thinking about this is if we do want to do this, start very low and see what the demand is and see if we can extend it further in coming years, you know, start with the 50 barrels, subsidize it. But my idea is the price per barrel was like $138 if you buy it retail. And even if we were to charge residents the $55 plus the $28 subsidy, so basically the city upfronts that $1,400 and we say, hey, you guys can buy a barrel for whatever, $83. And so I think it's relatively low risk with a lot of reward of conservation. So I mean, I would propose that maybe we consider doing 50 barrels and the city fronts that $1,400, but I would imagine it'd be very easy to recoup it, but I wouldn't be necessarily in favor of subsidizing it without collecting it back. I think there'd be enough people that would be interested in that $55 off of retail price that we could make it advantageous. So that's kind of at least the way that my mind started thinking. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts.
I had a thought. This is, I think, it's going to help with the stormwater, right? Could this subsidy come from our stormwater budget? This is a budgeting legal question. So-
it would be related to stormwater, so that's a potential source for
the subsidy to come from. So I like to find where the money could come from. So anyway, just a thought.
Councilmember Swanson, please.
Zach, this is a question for you. So as I understand it, you would put together the program, it would be launched. We would not be limited if we did the 50 subsidized barrels in the purchase launch. We could sell 500 or 1,000 barrels to residents at that $83 cost, correct?
Correct. You could sell as many $83 barrels as you want. I mean, you know, obviously there's no residency need for the $83 barrels. So,
Sure.
And that's what we find is that people from other communities come and purchase barrels for $83 and then come to another city's distribution location.
Okay, so the only limit in that initial would be the 50 or however many subsidized barrels we purchased.
Yes. And the trick with that is that, you know, we go and we tell the media, the television and the newspapers that, you know, this city has $55 barrels available. And oftentimes they disappear really quickly. And so residents are left going, wait a minute, I went and they're all $83 after they sell out. What some cities elect to do is a second tier that if it is reached, then we have a second batch of subsidized barrels. One thing I forgot to mention that's a benefit of working with this company, Rainwater Solutions, is they don't invoice the city until after the distribution day. And what's nice about that is they only bill the city for the actual number of subsidized barrels sold. So if a city says, okay, we'll do 100 subsidized barrels, 100 times $2,800, but let's say we only sold 75 barrels, then that's what the invoice would represent. And so there's no warehousing needs afterwards as well. Just something to consider. If you think your residents would be hungry for more than 50, you can have a contingency that you can decide in the first week if you wanted and say, yeah, we'll do a second tier of a limited quantity of any quantity you want. There's no minimum second tier.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And then a question for Councilmember Dalpas. When you were describing your thoughts a moment ago, were you saying that the city would subsidize and buy the 50 barrels, but then we would charge the residents the full 83 so that they were paying back that subsidy? Is that what you're suggesting?
that's what I'm suggesting while we're trying to figure out if the program is good and worthwhile. And I think it's harder to sell because our city doesn't have that limitation of no secondary water. Everyone has the ability to get secondary water. And this is definitely a great conservation piece. I mean, I understand that. But, you know, I think it'd be more responsible to say, let's charge the $83. So the city, and by what he just explained, we're not gonna be invoiced until later anyways. So I was thinking fronting that $1,400 or $2,800 to get into the program, and then just collecting it all back by the residents paying that full price, because they're essentially still saving $55 versus retail of buying one online. So, I mean, that's the way that my mind is thinking about it, and I think it's relatively low risk if we were to. And I understood what he was saying about not wanting to undercommit and then have a lot of residents be disappointed, but I'm willing to have some people be a little disappointed just by easing our way into the program. So I'm thinking we start little and then see where it goes.
Okay. Zach, so with that in mind, would it be, because Councilmember Dauka's, the residents on what you're describing, they're paying $83, whether we front the money or don't, right? They're gonna be paying 83, because if we just do the mass purchase, Zach, would it be possible to do just the mass purchase without any subsidized barrels, and whatever resident wanted to buy them at 83, they could buy them and we wouldn't have to do a program?
You know, cities ask this question is, can they participate? And we're certainly happy to have cities promote the $83 barrels to their residents. The challenge is we kind of need a little bit of critical mass to send a truck to North Ogden or, you know, to
Sure.
Weber County. So we wouldn't want to load a truck up with, you know, 20 barrels, 30 barrels. I don't know what, I mean, you know, there's about 5,900 households if the Oracle Google is correct that I just looked up in North Ogden. So the question is, you know, I realize this question about secondary water maybe is a disincentive to people purchasing barrels. I understand that wisdom. So that makes it cloudy, and it makes it opaque to know how many barrels we would sell there. If it was just culinary with 5,900 households, I think we could probably sell between 300 and 600 barrels. And so what we typically find with the subsidies is that we sell twice the number. So if a city subsidizes 100 barrels, we'll sell between 200 and 250, 300 barrels total. So it's just something to keep in mind. I don't know what it would be like to not subsidize and how many barrels we would sell, but we could certainly, you know, share the marketing material with you, and you could promote it in your, you know, in your existing in-house communiques, and we're happy to populate that content for you.
In the cities that have done this, have you had any cities that did as we are discussing, where they front the money, but then they charge the resident the full 83, so the resident really isn't benefiting from any kind of a subsidy?
We've had cities promote the $83 barrels, but we just want to be kind of careful with residents, because 11 other municipalities are subsidizing $55 barrels, and we don't want any of our hardworking reporters to misinform North Ogden residents into thinking that North Ogden would also be subsidizing, because then you'll get angry phone calls from residents saying, hey, I saw you know, North Ogden on television saying there were $55 barrels and there's no barrel. So we just want to bifurcate the communications to the public a little bit, just so that we don't create dashed expectations that you all would have headaches for.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, I wouldn't be opposed to having an actual subsidy, where for the first 50 barrels, the North Ogden covers the $28 and the resident pays the 55 for that first 50, and maybe that's enough to get the ball rolling for additional barrel sales.
Is that a motion, Councilmember Swanson?
Sure. Let's make that a motion. Mayor, I would move that we purchase 50 barrels with a second tier a contingency for 50 additional barrels just in case, right? Because we don't get invoiced for something we haven't actually sold. And with a subsidy of $28 per barrel. And let's run with the program, see what happens.
Okay, that's your motion.
I second that motion.
Second by Councilmember Ekstrom. Is there discussion, council?
I just had a question
Severin?
for curiosity. So I was studying this earlier, Zach, and I appreciate your effort at you and Anya's efforts at presenting tonight. This is really just kind of a curiosity question because by all means, there's not going to be any way of being able to police this, but according to Utah code, so they technically could collect up to 2,500 gallons.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
Okay.
That would
But
be,
technically, if they exceeded that,
yes, if they exceeded that in theory, they could
which is a
be.
lot of water.
So we've never had any problems or heard of any problems. I don't know who would be citing them, but it would be really, really hard to collect that much water here in Utah, in the second driest state in the country. I mean, it would just be a row of gigantic barrels just all the way. And you most of them would be empty if you had, whatever, 50 barrels lined up in your house. I mean, if you had a gigantic mansion with a huge roof, then you might be able to collect that much water.
Like Councilmember Swanson's house. All right, is there any further discussion on that issue?
I think they'll be great for my garden.
And John, we've got, you'll determine if this can be out of the stormwater
Yeah,
fund. So, okay, we have a motion and a second. I see no further discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your participation. Welcome to the program. We look forward to working with you all.
All right,
Thank
we'll make sure we
Thank
get
you guys so much.
advertisement out there and introduce the program.
Thank you.
Councilmember
Be in
Swanson.
touch.
Mayor, sometime in the near future, we'll need to have a discussion about what's the limit per household on
Right.
subsidized barrels?
Right.
Because if there's no limit, I'll take 5.
I think there's gonna be a limit. And we'll have John report back to us on.
Yeah, for my mansion and my garden.
All right, our next item on the agenda is a presentation to consider a budget for Cherry Days. Spencer, Lincoln, are you gonna make the presentation tonight? We can take these hands, so I guess it's you, Spencer. Let's proceed.
Mayor, council, it's a pleasure to be before you today. My name is Spencer Stevens, and I'm proud to be a resident of North Ogden. I'm here representing the Cherry Days Committee. I was asked by the other Cherry Days members to present today. I want to first apologize for some confusion on the agenda. We are not going to discuss a budget today. What we're going to discuss is the schedule of events that you all should have a copy of. And what we're looking for is guidance on our overview of what we have planned so far, understanding that the schedule is still somewhat fluid and that there will be changes made to it as we finalize. And with your feedback and guidance today, we'll go finalize the schedule, put a budget together, and come back and report again next month. So we plan to, our theme for this year is We Are One North Ogden. We chose that theme because I feel right now more than anything, what people crave is unity. What we need to do is get together outside and have fun as a community and remember that our neighbors are great people and just have fun. So we're going to kick everything off on Saturday, July 1st with a pool day at the North Shore Aquatic Center. On Monday, July 3rd, we're going to have our first fitness in the park. We plan to do this every morning except for July 4th with a different exercise and a different instructor. We're going to have an afternoon ping pong ball drop. The current plan is to have a helicopter come and drop ping pong balls to kiddos that they can collect in the fields or in a park. And on those ping pong balls, we'll have different advertisements for businesses or prizes that they can go and redeem throughout the city. And then we're going to do a flick and float. So we'll do a movie at the North Shore Aquatic Center. On Tuesday, July 4th, we're gonna do a 5K run and walk in the morning, and then an afternoon foam party. The location is still to be determined. We're working with the fire department to come set up and hose down the kiddos with foam. On July 5th, we're gonna do fitness in the park, and then we're gonna do a fish grab at the Barker Fish Farm. We'll do our Guns and Hoses softball tournament and finish off the night with a luau at the Barker Park Amphitheater. Got my pages in the wrong order here. On Thursday, we're gonna have fitness in the park with a volleyball tournament, a pickleball tournament. And I want to pause here because it really pains me that it says Pleasant View under this pickleball tournament. I'm really hoping with these newly allocated ramp funds that we can have our courts ready in time to have our first annual pickleball tournament in North Ogden.
You're volunteering to get them built, Spencer.
We're open for the Spencer Stevens Construction Pickleball.
I'd love to help with that. We're also gonna have a chalk art contest and a car show. On Friday, we're gonna do a bike race, fitness in the park, the final day of our pickleball tournament, and then we're gonna do day 1 of 2 of the carnival. As we've been working with vendors, we've realized that some of the events that we want to do or some of the activities we want to do, the cost really isn't much more to have them for 2 days than it is for 1. And so this won't be the full carnival like it will be on Saturday, but some of the kids' activities will be open so that we can make sure and capitalize on as much time as possible there. We'll also have the skate event, and we'll finish out the night with a movie in the park and food trucks at North Ogden Park. Saturday, we're going to start bright and early with a cannon shoot, followed by our sunrise patriotic ceremony of the Kiwanis breakfast, followed by our parade, kicked off with the kiddo bike parade, with our Cherry Days parade, and hopefully a flyover. We'll then have our carnival that will have the boutiques, the food vendors, petting zoo, art and quilt show, music and entertainment, and we'll cap off the evening with a concert and fireworks at the Barker Park Amphitheater. That is our ambitious plan. We're excited to have any and all feedback. And with that, I'm ready to take any questions.
All right, thank you, Spencer, for that presentation. I have one question. Don't want to get too far in the weeds. Where will the Grand Marshal, we talked about having the Grand Marshal maybe speak at the sunrise service? Since it is someone who's patriotic and is a judge, is that the plan?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because I think historically we've had that dinner, it hasn't been well attended, but this will be a way to honor him and maybe at that sunrise. I didn't know your willingness to help with the pickleball courts. I did write that down. All right, do we have any other questions? I mean, that's a pretty aggressive, we can pull that off. It'll be an awesome Cherry Days.
Yeah, I think you have the right group in place to do it.
Now, thanks, Lincoln, for participating. All right, any questions? That's pretty awesome. Councilmember Extra.
I do. The thing that just worries me, that's just the big red flag, is how well are residents going to respond to not having it on the 4th of July? And what kind of marketing do you have in place to really get people excited for the lead up to Saturday and having it not be on the 4th?
Yeah, so far, I think the feedback has been somewhat mixed. We want to emphasize that Cherry Days is North Ogden celebration. Historically, it's sometimes been on the 4th, sometimes the 5th, sometimes the 3rd. And so that date has changed. So we are trying to do events throughout the week. We'll make sure that they're patriotic in theme, but we want to make sure that the emphasis is on that this is a Cherry Day celebration, and that if this is successful moving forward, we would always have it on the 2nd Saturday of July.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the thing that I see is we do get, and Mayor kind of did his own informal, hey, where are you from? We have a lot of people from surrounding areas and even people that maybe have ties to North Ogden that just show up on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
So, that'll be kind of interesting to see, but it's all about kind of gearing expectations and getting the marketing around that. So, yeah.
So there's still quite a few 4th of July celebrations around, and now we're giving them an additional event that they can come to.
I think it's great. Thanks, Spencer.
Council, any other questions for Mr. Stevens?
Just a comment,
Go ahead, Councilmember Delpas.
thank you. Started speaking too soon. I think the comment is, if I remember correctly, it's more expensive to get a firework vendor to come on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
So this is, I mean, there's that financial benefit that we're not gonna have to pay as much to get a vendor to come shoot fireworks. And I love that. That's really cool.
That's a good point. I think actually, my discussion, they've got pretty good fireworks show for substantially less than price of the.
Significantly less, yeah. And that's kind of been the case with most of the vendors that we've spoken with about coming on Saturday, is that the cost is going to be substantially less, which is helping us do some of these other activities.
Councilmember Swanson, go ahead, please.
I think it's great. I love the multi-day format. It includes so many different kinds of events, from flick and float to the concert to the movie in the park. I think this will turn out to be a great thing. I really like it.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm excited.
And with along with the Spencer Stevens construction, you have to remember Bexell Insurance and Financial Services as well.
Well,
That sponsor.
And we've also physical therapy and sports.
Oh, that's right, right.
I think they'll be done by.
So what I'm hearing is
Paid for with the ramp money.
we can get your financial planning done before the pickleball tournament, and if you survive the tournament, you can go to physical therapy for rehab.
If you get hurt playing pickleball, yeah.
Right, well, if you get hurt and survive, then you can go to rehab. Awesome.
Yeah, we do, we'll know on Monday for sure if the ramp money was, approved. I think it's approved, but we have to get approval by the commission.
I see.
in front of the commission on the 14th.
14, so.
All right.
It'll be
Jump a little ahead there.
be a problem, but we seriously are going to ask the citizens to help with pickleball, so.
There's great enthusiasm for
Yeah.
pickleball. So.
I had one question. We've had the take a break from cancer on the chalk art. I know I saw something from Greg Thorpe just recently on that. Is there any coordination whatsoever with that? It seems like we'll diminish that event. Is there some way we could coordinate that with?
We
With
do
Greg?
plan to reach out to Greg.
Good, perfect, perfect. Okay, any other questions?
This is great. I mean, I didn't know what we were gonna come in tonight. This is a lot of work has been put into this already, and I'm pretty baffled. I mean, not that you guys, I wouldn't think you'd be capable. It's just amazing.
It's a good thing. I think this will show what citizens can do when it becomes their event. John,
One thing, council, that we've communicated to the group is that they are allowed to make assignments to you to show up to specific activities as the representative of the council. So if you have things that you'd be interested in, it'd be good to reach out to them and let them know, hey, I'm interested in this activity or that activity, so that we've got city council representative at every activity.
I've got a wheelchair, I can do in the 5K.
did I see a car show in there?
Yes.
Where's the Jeep show?
In the print.
In the parade.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
It's the only thing.
Council. On behalf of the council, thank you so much. We're excited. It's gonna be awesome. I think this is gonna set the tone for future events, and we surely appreciate all your efforts. We know it's not easy. And let us know what we can do to help. I think originally I said, once the plan's approved and the budget's approved, then we're gonna stay out of your hair.
Yeah.
I just appreciate periodic reports, so we know it's gonna be pulled off. No doubt so it will, but We take all the heat if it doesn't.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a plan in case the fireworks don't go off, so I don't? Oh, all these emails or things. Cause you got to back up,
Yeah, I think it'll be, Councilmember Barker with a lighter.
okay. All right, thank you so much. We're excited and, I didn't see anyone object to the proposal here, so we'll move forward with that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Spencer. All right, let's move on to item number 7. This is going to be presented by Scott Hess, who's our Community Development Director. He's going to talk to us about potential purchase of some property at 1500 North and 200 West. Regards to, I think, right along the storm sewer issue, right, Dave?
Wait for the right.
Scott, I don't know. Might want to take that, you stand up and everybody leave.
Make sure.
Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is an item coming back to the council for their consideration. This originally you have seen this on October 25th last year. And the council approved the purchase of this parcel at an agreed upon, well, at a proposed amount from Pine View Water of about $111,000 and some change, pending assurance that we were going to get a good deal essentially. So we went out, we requested an appraisal. It was a little bit difficult to secure an appraisal. This isn't a piece of property that you have a lot of similar comps to. So it was comped out as a potentially residential piece of property. We did receive that appraisal back after the holiday time frame, and we had some other kind of interruptions there. And the 111 at the time was an excellent deal. Essentially, I don't want to release what the appraised value was, but that was a good deal for the piece of property. Spoke with Pine View about the timing differential because the original offer was based on August of last year. And so their board asked, and the director there asked if they could take that number forward with the inflation value and just apply it to essentially January of 2023. So the current number that's being requested from Pine View for this parcel is 113,175.16. Slightly higher than what it would have been, I'm sorry, from Weaver Box Elder Conservation District, not from Pine View. And staff's recommendation is that council go ahead and purchase parcel number 11,373,0008 with stormwater funds for the development of the stormwater basin for the proposed property purchase price of $113,175.16.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I would summarize that saying that the appraisal supports the value, which is the question the council had.
Yep.
So with that, let me ask if there's any questions, other questions of Scott. You know, council member Severing and myself went and looked at the piece of property and it is kind of odd shape, but it meets our needs for what we're trying to accomplish. Regards to retention of stormwater. Any questions for Scott? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the purchase of the property as described by Mr. Hess at approximately 1500 North and 200 West. We have a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the purchase of the property at 1500 North, 200 West as described by Scott Hess for the purpose of stormwater detention.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second to that?
I second.
Second, council member Severing. Is there any further discussion on this issue? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Let's start with you, council member Swanson,
Yes.
council member Severing,
Yes.
council member Ekstrom,
Yes.
council member Delpez. Yes. Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on now to item number 8. And this is a action to consider a resolution to amend the consolidated fee schedule. This will be presented by Mr. Call, our city manager and attorney. This is a resolution number 01-2023 for those who are interested. John?
Thank you, Mayor. So council, one of these is what we talked about last time with the solid waste fee and the increase that's being passed on to us from the county. And so this is what the council talked about with the approval of moving the fee up from $13.39 to $14.29 for each resident dwelling per residential unit in the city that takes our services. So some of the apartments, for example, have community bins that they don't use it, so they don't pay for solid waste because they don't use our solid waste. And then there's a corresponding increase for non-resident and then non-residential as well. That because there are some businesses that can get by with only the same size can that we have at our houses. So that's the one that you have already discussed. The next one was held up a little bit based on we were getting some information back from the engineers for water rates. So as you head up the hill, our water system is designed into various pressure zones. And so pressure zones 7, 8, and 9 are at the top of the city. And to get water there, we do not have any sources that are high enough to gravity feed to those locations. And so we have to pump the water through our Lakeview Heights pump station and our Frog Rock pump station. Those are the two, right, Dave?
It starts at well 3, which is down here, and then.
So there's 3, so there's several, they can be pumped several times. And so this fee is an increase over what we've been charging them in the past. And also a modification of the fee. So we used to charge them, I'm gonna zoom in because I know you all can't read this. We used to charge them based on how many gallons they were using. So they were paying 27 cents per 1,000 gallons. And with what's happening with what we're paying to the power company, to Rocky Mountain Power, their rates have gone up enough. And particularly at the times we're pumping, we're paying some peak rates. And the average is turning out to, on a monthly charge per residence, going up to $6.21. So what that means is the house where they normally would have pumped 6,000 gallons, would be paying close to $1.50. And what we're saying is that we're going to be increasing the rate, or we're recommending an increased rate on a monthly basis of about $4.50 to those homes for the cost to get it all the way up the hill to them. And that's for zone 7. And then zone 8 and through 10 is a little more expensive. And the reason why those are grouped together is that they're all served by the same tank at the top of the city. And so we don't have an interim spot we can pump the water to. We have to pump it to that tank at the top of the city. So we've broken those zones into those 2 groups, zone 7 and then 8 through 10 is the next one.
Sounds like some water barrels might solve that problem. So John, if we're increasing the rate because of power, it seems like to me that we're pumping all the water out of the ground right now, whether it's up the hill or not. And in fact, some time ago, we increased the rate because we were pumping so much water. So would this entail an increase across all aspects of the city? Because power hasn't just gone up to pump up the hill. It's gone up to pump water out of I think we used to pump 4 months out of the year or something, Dave, as I recall. Now we're pumping about every month.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so that was Dave knows better information. But so
How it works?
yeah.
I'm just checking.
But so, and Dave can fill in the gaps, but we already did that adjustment for what we were paying at the wells. Because we were still getting some water from the spring, so it's a blended mix. The trouble is that we cannot gravity feed to 7, 8, and 9, and 10 without pumping, even though it's a compounding of all the issues. I know these microphones are just the wrong height for us to see each other, Mayor. But Dave can probably give you more details on. Because I know our spring.
Do you understand my question?
No,
I mean, if we're increasing the rate because of the power bills going up,
Yes,
the power bills have gone up across the whole city, not just
so we
up
captured
to
that.
Councilmember Swanson's house.
Yeah, and you're right. So when we first did the pumping rate, it was back in 2018. And so there wasn't that energy savings cost on the power bill. When we did the increase to the whole city, that energy cost was already on there, and so that was part of that calculation, when we did that. And so, yes, I understand what you're saying, but yes, it was calculated in second time. Now we just needed to do it for these 3 pumping zones so that we can pump it up the hill.
Yeah, let me clarify my question here. I heard Mr. Call, he said the reason we're increasing this is because power costs have gone up dramatically. Did I hear that correctly, Mr. Call?
Yes,
So did it just go up to pump water up the hill, or if we're pumping water out of the ground 12 months instead of 4 months, it seems like the power has gone up for everyone.
But we captured that rate the second time when we did that. But these ones right here, they're on their own power source because it is a lot of energy. Because you gotta imagine that we're pumping it from here, basically at Lee's, and we're pumping it all the way up. And so,
Let me make this simple, Dave.
yes,
It's an incremental.
Did the power not go up for those other residents? I thought I heard Mr. Call say,
so,
the rate of power, the power rates went up so dramatically that we have to increase.
so, and I didn't characterize when that happened. The rate went up before we did the first adjustment, and we're coming back later than we wish we would have to ask for the power rate adjustment. Because what Dave just said is when we take it out of the ground, it's much more efficient. Because there's some other pressures involved in the hydrostatic system. But as soon as we go to send it up the hill, we are fighting gravity independent with no other pressures helping us.
yes.
And so it becomes way more expensive.
I'm
But-
buying a rain barrel.
Yeah.
Say I'm confused, but anyway.
Well, we should have done this at that same time in July. We're just getting the information back from the study from the engineer.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, any other questions, council member? For Mr. Espinosa while he's at the JD, go ahead.
Yeah, zones 7 through 10, since they'll be impacted. Where can we refer to a map on those zones? So when we get questions from residents on this, et cetera.
Oh, and I can provide you guys with a map. We have it laid out because the very nice thing about it is the PRVs kind of create that zone. And so we have a
Okay.
designated map that we can get to the council, and we'll put it on our website as well. That
Okay,
have those zones.
and then I don't know that I'm following the rate increase. So for somebody that's paying $80 for their full bill with their garbage and water and everything combined with North Ogden, approximately, if you're in zone 10, which is the most expensive, how much more are you going to pay for if you're using 6,000 gallons?
So that's the thing is it's not based on per thousand anymore. Because of that energy savings. So what Rocky Mountain Power did when we first did this, Rocky Mountain Power had the bill broke out per kilowatt. And there was a price per that. So we were able to break that up and split that. So we charged per 1,000 gallons. And so that's why you've seen the 27 cents per 1,000 gallons. But now the way that they do it is they've actually said that they've lowered the rate, right? The kilowatt rate. But there's this energy cost. So if you produce a ton of energy, now you have to pay this mass amount, right? And so there was no way for us to break that up per 1,000 gallons. So we had to just pass that energy bump onto everybody that's in that zone. And so that's what we did is what we took is our, if you go.
Okay, so just to, so if someone uses 6,000, which I think is a typical amount.
Yes.
As of right now, if they're in zone 10, they would be paying 35 cents times 6, right?
Yes.
Okay, so they're about $1.50-ish.
Yes.
And they're going up to 6.85, so it's about an increase of $5 on
Yeah,
their
on a-
bill. Okay, I just wanted, that's what I wanted
Yes.
to understand.
Outline it for me. How much?
All right.
Wallet.
Are there any other questions before we ask Mr. Call to proceed if there's any other adjustments in the schedule? Because our citizens, we will, this will go up. Solid waste is going up. I can tell you the sewer district is going up. We've already approved in that budget, so we will hear probably from folks during this time, so I just want to make sure you understand that, in case we have any questions. Come in. You good? All right. Mr. Espinosa, thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. So any other questions? If not, I'd be looking for a motion to approve resolution 01-2023, amending the consolidated fee schedule as previously explained by Mr. Call and Mr. Espinosa. Any further questions? Anyone want to make them?
I have a
Question.
yeah.
Councilmember
I
Dalpas,
feel like
proceed.
I'm talking way too much tonight.
Nope, go ahead.
So John, I asked you a question around the equalized cans, and I would like you to try your best to explain that to us, because I was working with David for a while to try to say, hey, can we equalize the cost of the black can and the blue can? And if you could try to explain that, that'd be great.
Okay,
Sorry, just to put you on the spot, and I was gonna try to ask you before if I could, but
Councilmember Dalpas, would you be okay if we deferred that discussion since it's not on the consolidated schedule as presented? Could we?
that's okay. I just need to understand it for
Yeah,
sometime. I mean, I'd like to get it figured out sooner than later, because I feel like it's just lingering.
yeah. What I would suggest if we could, and John and myself had a brief discussion about this. But if we could get together and get that resolved and then make a presentation on that. It could be a little bit confusing trying to explain that. It's similar to the power bill.
Well, if it's similar to that, then let's defer it.
Then we can sit down with John and get that resolved.
Sounds good.
and I did have
Okay.
on agenda item 10 was kind of a brief, like, what direction does the council want to go? Meaning, here's a little piece and tell us what information you want so we could have that future discussion.
Is
So
that okay, Councilmember Dalpas?
Yes, that's great.
All right. I'm good, thank you.
Mayor,
Councilmember Severin?
I move that we approve resolution 01-2023, amending the consolidated fee schedule.
Okay,
Second.
second by Councilmember Swanson. Is there any further discussion on the issue? We'll take a roll call vote on this. Councilmember Dalpas?
Aye.
Councilmember Ekstrom?
Yes.
Councilmember Severin?
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from Mr. Call in regards to an interlocal agreement with Weaver County for subdivision reviews. This would be agreement A02-2023. If the council feels so inclined to approve. Mr. Call?
thank you, Mayor. So council, this is an extension of the existing agreement. There's nothing significant that's changed from the original agreement. Other than the term, I believe this one's 5 years and the original one was for 3. But essentially what this requires is that the developers go and get their plats approved by the county before they come to us for final approval. And they pay a fee to the county to do that. And then that helps us in, instead of the county getting it after we've approved it and then making corrections because engineers don't always agree. And then giving it back to us and we have to run it through a few more steps. This just makes the process shorter for the developers and us and gives the county the authority to step in at that phase of the process as opposed to having to wait till the end.
So
we-
basically, this is just an extension of an existing agreement with a change in term from 3 to 5 years.
Correct.
Okay, council, do you have any questions of Mr. Call regarding this agreement? If not, would someone like to make a motion to approve agreement A02-2023?
Mayor, I move that we approve the interlocal agreement with Weaver County, number A02-2023 for the duration of 5 years.
Thank you, Councilmember Ekstrom.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Dalpas. Any further discussion? Take a roll call vote on this. Councilmember Ekstrom,
Yes.
Councilmember Severin,
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson,
Yes.
and Councilmember Dalpas.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to questions about trash and snow removal.
So. Okay.
Wow. trigger
I-
happy.
I-
so to speak.
I'm terrible. I looked at the clock and I'm like, wow, this is going quick. So I got excited.
Well, let me just point out, because it's going quick, doesn't mean you have to slow it down. You can proceed along. So, why don't you go ahead and lead the discussion on that, Mr. Gall?
Okay, council, so the question about trash that Councilman Dowd asked was a discussion about originally. The second blue can was more expensive, second black can was more expensive than anything else on the fee schedule. In large part because there was an incentive with that to try and encourage people to recycle. Recycling was very cheap at the time. We could dump our recycling for free at the time that this was adopted. Since that time, recycling has become much more expensive. The curbside cost as well as the dumping costs have gone up. And so the question is, would the council like to revisit the equalization of the cost per can based on what we actually pay? Or do you want to leave it as is? The general number is there's a subsidy by the second black can that those roughly 800 or 900 homes pay that helps support the solid waste system for everybody else in the city. And it's tens of thousands of dollars.
John, we did a calculation on that, equalizing it. Would result in an increase to every resident. Approximately $15 a month decrease to those 800 homes.
Correct.
And how much was the increase to every other resident?
We thought about $1 a month, maybe $1.20.
$1.20 a month.
So, and so the kind of the hope of this discussion is what information do you want us to bring back for the discussion with the budget, or do you want to do it sooner? Just a question for the group.
I would propose we look at it in the overall situation of the budget, because I do believe with the change in recycling, it's probably going to be hard to justify that charge. And so instead of kind of nitpicking it each month, I'd like to just get this done in one swoop so the citizens know. I kind of feel like we're getting into this almost penny pinching situation here. I just assume that the residents know, look, here's the increase in your monthly bill. Because it's going to be very substantial, but just my take. Council, if you disagree with that, let me know. If not, is that okay? I mean, we're not too far away from that period of time. Is that okay, Councilmember Dalpaz? I know you brought this up.
My biggest thing is I just want to make sure we have all of the information, because we will have questions that come in from residents. And if we can get John's help and David's help to figure this out, I just want to have something that's prepared, that when a resident says, hey, I'm going to be spending $1, a month extra because of this and that, and just so we have.
That's why I'd like to do it with the budget
Yeah.
process, because I think then we get that analysis. We, as the Public Works and the enterprise funds make their presentation, I think that's a question that would be justified in that time frame. So
Yeah,
if
and
that's okay.
And the other good point that resident Kevin Burns brought up last time or recently was there might be a lot of tonnage that is going with grass clippings. So that can be part of the conversation too. We need to figure out if it's enough worth to allow people to go dump their grass at the pit for free. What are the numbers on that? I think that might be part of it too.
Yeah, I know we've had that discussion. It's hard to determine how much grass is going there, but anyway, if we could do that as part of the budgeting process, are you all right with that, council?
Yes.
I think to your point, Councilmember Dalpas will get a full analysis at that point in time, but I just kind of like the citizens to know what they're going to be facing in the upcoming year. Okay. Mr. Call, did you want to talk about snow plowing now?
Yeah. So snow removal, before we started, shout out to all those folks who clean the snow. It's amazing. They were out at 3 last night
Yeah,
or this morning.
when I was talking to them the other day, they've been out consistently for 12 hours.
Yeah, so Sunday night, they started at 10,
10, right?
and last night, or this morning, they started at 3 in the morning. And they, hours and hours and hours pushing snow. But the question has come up in regards to sidewalks. What exactly would the council like to enforce as far as code enforcement goes? And there's even a potential question about how clean should the sidewalk be? And then number two, who should clean it? And so the reason I say the who should clean it is that we have residents who own areas that they don't live on. So they are 20 miles away from the property that needs to be shoveled. And our ordinance requires them to shovel it. And we've had some residents express some concern about it.
Well, John, if I could express, my opinion on this. Simply is if you own property, you're responsible for cleaning it. Now, I feel bad that people live 20 miles away, but they can hire somebody to do it because if we don't have them cleaning it or we decide to clean it, I'm open for getting my sidewalk cleaned by the city also. So I'm of the opinion that our ordinance requires the cleaning of the sidewalk within 24 hours of a snowfall. Is that correct?
Yep.
So that's just my opinion. I mean, I'm sorry that people live 20 miles away, but I just don't know how you start making those exceptions. And in regards to cleaning it, I think it just has to have a safe pathway for people to get on the sidewalk. I don't know how you define that. But people ought to either snow blow or shovel the sidewalk.
And we've usually treated it as passable. So, if it's been trampled and they shovel it off so that it's not knee high, we've let them, we usually counted that. So we don't make them go all the way down to concrete, but with the council, I mean, do you want to consider going a different direction? Meaning, should we bring this back for a full discussion with an ordinance change?
Council, do you have any desire to change the ordinance? Councilmember Swanson, go ahead.
I don't have any desire to change the ordinance, mainly because of enforcement. We don't have the code enforcement officers. I've had a couple conversations with some of the residents that have spurred this conversation and others over the last couple of weeks. And, we can always, raise property taxes by $300,000 or $400,000 and hire 2 or 3 code enforcement officers who drive around and look for all these. But we are really on an enforcement by complaint status with not just snow, but with a lot of things. Because we are running so lean here in the city. And, I don't like it when the plows, I've got a 30-foot by 10-foot deep by 9-foot tall pile of snow in front of my house because I'm at the end of the cul-de-sac and it regularly gets pushed onto the sidewalk and it's not a lot of fun to clean it, but we clean it. And I don't think there's a need to change the ordinance. Maybe some clarification on what we consider to be passable. Maybe, but I don't know, I think, yeah.
Knee high, I guess, varies on your height. I'm on one tonight.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, well, there'd be very little passage with maybe with you. Anything else? John, there is one thing I would say though, this state would be pertinent to you. On city-owned property, we better be willing to clean those sidewalks. Because if we're asking residents to make their passable. In fact, I can tell you along 2600, there's a strip of property that I think the city owns. There in between the Stowers residence, heading down to Barker Parkway. That hasn't been cleared by the city for years. Fortunately, we have a resident who does that, but I would say we better be aware of city-owned properties and make sure they're cleared within that 24-hour period. I think that's only fair if we're going to ask the citizens to do that. So I don't know, David, do you know where all those are located? But
Yeah, I mean, most of them we do, there's these ones and twos, we've actually picked up, I think, 4 properties this year that we didn't know about, so.
Good.
When we hear about them, we try to get.
John, do you need any further guidance on that? I don't know how you discuss passable. I think you've got to have
I have an idea.
residents use common sense. You know, either you kind of shovel it or you snow blow it. I don't know what other options there are, but Councilmember Exton, did you
I
have
do
a
have an
suggestion?
idea. Well, the suggestion is, not everybody owns boots. I think somebody that has shoes on, that snow shouldn't be coming up to their ankles to get in their shoes. So that to me is a reasonable depth. So
If I'm a homeowner, I surely want to get my sidewalk shoveled because the liability of not doing that
exactly.
is fairly substantial. If somebody slips and falls and you haven't
And
followed
then
the city ordinance.
If it packs down to that turns into an ice sheet and much harder to get up after that too, after it's packed.
Okay, Mr. Call, did you need anything else in regards to that discussion?
No, I will check with the code enforcement officers and see if they, if I'll just double check their definition of passable and then we'll go from there.
Well, I think if somebody shoveled it, nobody's gonna go out and just kind of skim along the top. If they're gonna go out, they're probably gonna shovel it to the best they can. And
Yeah.
I don't think we get too technical. If we see an unsafe situation, we gotta bring it to the homeowner's attention. As Councilmember Swanson said, if it's brought to our attention. Do that. Any Councilmember Exton?
Yeah, I think it's more of a question of the depth of the snowfall. If we only have like this much snowfall to, and it might stay there for a little while, but a lot of times, with my own driveway, even if there's only that much, it usually will melt very quickly, probably before the 24 hours is up. And so I think that's kind of.
Well, the sidewalk is passable within 24 hours, however that happens. Yeah. Okay.
Just be a good neighbor, and if you see someone that needs help, try to help them out, because if you get a complaint to the city that says, oh, our neighbor hasn't plowed their sidewalk. I mean, it's ultimately costing the city more in tax dollars because someone had to go resolve the issue. So just try your best to help out your neighbors too.
That's what I see in the city is once people get the snow blower out, they usually do that.
Just keep going. Just go down to the corner.
All right, let's move on then. Councilmember Seven, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention too, we've got to make sure with the depth of the snow right now that water or fire hydrants are taken care of properly as well.
Good point. Good point. I know Dave's team's been out with front loader moving snow and it's interesting times. Okay, thank you, Councilmember Severin, Councilmember Alvarez, and all the council members for your comment. We're going to excuse the Parks and Recreation report this evening. Councilmember Barker is out in training. We're also going to pass on the building and planning report this evening. Councilmember Dalpaz has had some issues and he's very precise in his reports. I wanted to have time to make sure he was accurately reporting. So we'll go with Councilmember Severing on the police department. If he has anything you'd like to report, then we'll move on to Councilmember Ekstrom on Public Works and wrap up with Councilmember Swanson on finance.
Yes, I
Councilmember
do.
Severing?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Chief Quinny wanted me to pass on that winter parking is still in effect. Our officers are out actively enforcing the ordinance to protect public and private property while the snow plows are clearing the snow. The new public safety building is making slow progress due to the weather, but hopefully with spring around the corner, we'll see some additional progress. A reminder for people who may receive suspicious requests for money or what do they call them? Cards, gift cards. Make sure they check that. According to the chief, it seems like that's becoming a lot more common. And then last but not least, just a reminder that with the extra snow in the mountains to drive a little bit more carefully because of the deer. Looking very, very cautiously.
Thank you, Thank you, Councilmember Severin. Councilmember Ekstrom, did you have something you'd like to report on Public Works?
Sure. Just more shout outs to our Public Works Department who are basically being full-time snow removal experts. They're just out, many hours, many long hours clearing our roads with these snowstorms, and just our highest gratitude. Thank you. Please pass that on. And I'm still willing to give them pizza. So let me know when I can do that. And the other news is that we did have All West Communications start with their groundbreaking yesterday. And so we're going to get that fiber communications network started. And so that's going to be really exciting for our residents to have some, high speed, reliable internet connections. So that's pretty much it for Public Works.
If I could just add a little color to that, I think the patience shown by the council has paid off. As you know, we were made a presentation by a group that wanted basically the city to guarantee a $20 million bond. All West is doing this on their dime, about $16 million project, I think they said at the groundbreaking yesterday. 161 miles of fiber, or was it 116?
115, yeah.
115. Boring through North Ogden Rock. So this will be something I think the citizens have asked for a long period of time. And this will be a good thing. So we appreciate it. All right, Councilmember Swanson.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, 59% of the year as of January 31st has elapsed. Our general fund revenues, understanding that we only have our sales tax information through December. General fund revenues is at 66%. General fund expenditures is at 55%. Let's take a look at the sales tax there. What you'll notice for the month of December is something that we haven't seen in many years in our sales tax monthly reporting, and that is where our actual sales tax collections was below our projection, our budgeted amount. So you'll see there that the amount that we had budgeted for the month of December was $448,836. The amount collected was $447,777. So about 2%, just a little under 2% below. Now remember that a singular data point does not a trend make. It isn't a vector or anything at this point, but it is attention getting, in that it's the first time it's happened in probably 7 or 8 years that I can remember being on council. So it's something to pay attention to as we are looking into our budget. Sales tax accounts for approaching 50% of our overall budget every year. And so it's a major portion of what we do. So we'll keep an eye on when January rolls around here in a few weeks. And we get those numbers to see whether or not we have a trend going, or the beginnings of a trend.
Councilmember Swanson.
Yes,
just, clarify, wasn't the collections actually down from what we actually collected last year too, in addition to?
Well, our budget was flat with what we collected last year. So this would, because of that, you're correct. This does represent effectively a collection of less than we collected last year for the month of December.
And, the alarming part of that is the inflationary number. We're down even with inflation hitting where it is. I know the individuals I've talked to in the business I used to participate in, the grocery business, is their units are way down.
Yeah.
People are buying less, but the inflation is keeping it up there. So the danger is if inflation subsides and units are down, it could be a very interesting time for sales tax collections.
Yeah. Fortunately, I did hear that on Capitol Hill today, the state capitol, that while the state is looking at removing the state food tax, they aren't taking away the county and the city portion. So that's probably 50% of our sales tax is what comes out of the grocery stores. If that were to go away, we would really be in a world of hurt. We'd have some very interesting budgeting that would have to be done.
I understand too that the state has budgeted revenues flat for next year. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yeah. I don't know if that's so much because of economic predictions or because we've had such a gigantic surplus that they don't want to end up with another embarrassing $3 billion surplus and be asked again, why are you over collecting to that degree? Or if it's because they see economic headwinds growing in strength and in volume. For budget coming up, council, it is time for you to get together with your departments for which you are the liaison so that you can start talking about budgets, where we are and what they are hoping for, expecting, all of those things. From a budget schedule, we're looking at our first budget meeting being March 28th, where we'll talk about budget highlights, percentages, revenues, priorities, salaries, and benefits. And then on April 11th, we'll discuss enterprise funds and the admin departments. April 25th, we'll discuss parks and police. May 2nd, fund balance, final budget priorities. May 9th, approve the tentative budget. And June 13th, approve final budget unless there is a truth in taxation. So that's a general rundown of where we're headed. And March 28th sounds a long way off, but tomorrow is March 1st. And so we're right there. So please get together with your departments, understanding what we're seeing in sales tax and our desires to hold the line if at all possible with property taxes. All of those factors. Time to get together with your departments and so we can start working and have some great information as we meet on March 28th.
Perfect. And I would just add to Councilmember Swanson, we've had 2 meetings now with the subcommittee of audit to review the budget. It's been mostly an educational aspect this time, but they are participating and we're grateful for those. Give us input as the mayor presents his budget to the council. So, all right, thank you for those reports, council members. Thanks for all you do and helping keep North Ogden a great place to live. With that, we'll go to item number 12 on our agenda, which are additional public comments. If anyone would like to comment this evening online, raise your hand and John will watch for that. Otherwise, please step up to the podium, state your name, and if you're a resident of North Ogden, please limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Chris Pulver, North Ogden. Just a couple things. One of them was you talk about snow removal off of sidewalks, which is something we've been looking at too. And like you said, even if someone is, they own the lot, so there's a sidewalk there, and even if they don't have a house there, they should be clearing that sidewalk. Agree 1,000% on that. The one thing we were talking about cardboard, I think recycling, whatever. The last place that I knew that you could take free stuff besides this, the one near the old building there, old fire station, Public Works, is the one off of near Autoleaf. There was a recycling place. Now they charge $5. So to me, that's the only place left, I think, in the county where it's free. So that's something to, if residents start complaining about something, you can point at that. But then grass, I agree, that's a ginormous amount of waste that I throw in there. And if I had something, an incentive to take it to the green waste, that would greatly reduce my, weight into the trash facility. And then I agree on rain barrels. I've been trying to figure out how to do that, and they're at least 150 on a good one. So to get one for 83, even without it, it would be great. And then something we can talk about later, but it's the delay in sales tax. I always thought that was kind of interesting. We're almost, 2 months behind, and I thought, where's that going? It's going somewhere, but anyway, don't have to answer that, but, or do unless you,
State's got it.
I figured, but, and they get to probably good on a pretty good CD or bond on it. Get some money, anyway. Okay, that was it.
Okay, thanks, Vince.
Thanks, Fred.
Anyone else? Brenda?
Brenda Ashdown, I live in North Ogden. Even brought jawbreakers today, so I would keep my mouth shut, but I didn't do any good. I just have one thing that I would like you to think about. That was you're talking about garbage collection. I understand that maybe it's not fair for someone with 2 black garbage cans to pay a huge amount, but I only have 1 black garbage can. I do think people who have 2 should pay more than I pay only having 1. So I don't know how that's going to work out as far as you're making it equal for everyone, but that's my opinion.
And just so you know, it'd be a per can charge, so somebody with 2 would pay more than somebody with 1, maybe not to the extreme level they are.
Okay, great, because that I didn't understand. I was thinking you're just going to make everybody equal.
A per can.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
So there's just not a penalty essentially for having a second can because they're paying more for it.
Anyone else like to make a comment this evening? We appreciate your comments. John, is there anyone online that would like to comment?
Yes, we just had a hand pop up.
Okay.
Susan Kilborn had a comment.
All right, it's good to hear from Susan. Susan?
Hello, North Ogdenites. First of all, I want to tell City Council, you're looking fine tonight. Beautiful lady, handsome gentleman. Phil, I don't know what you're eating tonight, but I think it's sunflower seeds.
Trail mix.
I have a couple of comments first and then a couple questions. Excited about the rain barrel thing. I've been wanting to have this in North Ogden for a long time. I'm way into recycling and still want to figure out a way we can do that again. I miss that a lot. I forgot what I was going to say. My suggestion, I don't know what your time frame is on commitment for like the 2nd tier level, but I have a suggestion that you kind of put the word out about this and find out how many people are interested, and also for individuals interested, how many they would be wanting to have. HH and I would probably want to have 2. And it sounds like Phil at least would be on board for that. So, and Mr. Mayor, I want to remind you of my offer to Public Works that you haven't gotten back to me on, and I'll leave that at that. And I have a hypothetical, not hypothetical question. We live in an HOA, and the common areas are often not shoveled, the sidewalks. And I'm wondering, hypothetically, since my HOA is inside the boundaries of North Ogden City, if somebody were to be injured, who would be responsible for that? The HOA or the city?
HOA.
Okay, good.
And by the way, I did get back to you. I just haven't got the final number.
Well,
But
you
Dave
said,
would tell you, I've already had the conversation with him and John about getting the Public Works crew together after the snow quits falling to recognize their efforts.
okay,
So,
my bad. I thought,
I haven't forgot you.
okay, good, because I do want to recognize them. I appreciate them so very, very much.
You did a great
And
job.
I want to echo the comments of the gentleman who spoke first, who came up to the podium on recycling and the rain barrel. And I also want to echo Charlotte's concern about not having the traditional July 4th celebrations on the 4th of July. I think what the crew that are putting together the Cherry Days thing have done an awesome job, and I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to be volunteering because I see some fun stuff coming up. But just echoing, I don't think I'm the only one who's going to be kind of bummed that it's not going to be on the 4th of July on Independence Day. And that's all I have. And thank you.
Thank you for participating. Anyone else online, John? Anyone else here? All right, I don't see anyone that wants to step up to the plate. So staff, do you have any comments this evening? Please tell your staff we appreciate all they're doing. I know this has been an unusual year, for sure. Mr. Call?
Just because I want it to go longer.
Let's see, and I unrecognized you at this time.
We did have a resident reach out to us about some contact with the DWR about deer population. I've reached out to them and haven't heard back, but so if you get a call from them asking, we are trying, they're just as busy as we are, I imagine. We also are having multiple home builders start to ask us about temporary occupancy permits again, and we're telling them it's not allowed per the last discussion we have, but just so you know, that is something. And then finally, Scott's still here in his cowboy suit, I guess is the but the Scott is, his title's been changed from planning director to community development director. So he will be, it's more responsibilities, not less. He's bringing stuff with him, and there'll be some updates as we move forward. Dave and him and I are going to meet and talk about some things, but we'll be able to find some, or he's got to be helping us in a lot more ways and participating in stuff. And I'm pretty sure we already announced that Dave is the assistant city manager now. So, but just want to recognize both of them for their good work and how much fun it is to work with.
John, since I'm on one tonight, so does that require to wear a cowboy suit as you described it, if you're the community, what's the connection there? I'm just curious.
If that's a cowboy suit, I want to know what a city slicker looks like.
Cowboy boots on there.
You look like a cowboy.
Like sans hat and boots.
All right.
Those shoes are not going to keep you in a saddle.
All right, well, I was just wondering what the connection was there, so I didn't get an answer, so we'll move on. Anything else from staff? Anything else from council? Councilmember Swanson, please.
Council, we've had some discussion, some issues with the Willis family and others regarding adjoining city-owned land that's been landscaped or fenced in some cases, that we have had some previous discussion on. As I've been thinking about it, I've asked John and Scott to prepare proposed language for an ordinance where if you are a resident living next to city-owned land and you want to do some landscaping, not anything major, certainly no, major earth movement or anything like that, but you want to beautify it so that it enhances your yard and you want to maintain it, I don't think city would have a problem with that. Certainly wouldn't be able to fence it in, basically staking a claim to it or anything like that. But we've had some additional properties come to our attention where there's been some neighboring city-owned property that has been beautified, but it's still open, right? There's no fencing or anything like that that would indicate to anybody, hey, you can't, this is private property, not public property. But just to have that discussion, I think there's some middle ground that we can arrive at as a city that enables residents to do that and make land next to them look good without stepping quote unquote on city toes or going to extraordinary means like fencing it off from the public and those kinds of things. But John, if I could ask that we, maybe the second meeting in March.
Okay.
That we could have that discussion about and have some just preliminary proposed language. That, I think that would be great, and we may not end up doing something, but I think we ought to have that conversation.
I'd assume that would entail, as long as they're in compliance with city ordinances and setbacks, et cetera.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, we look forward to that discussion. Anything, Councilmember Dalpass, please.
John, this resident that talked to you about DWR, I got in touch with someone at the DWR. I'll talk to you after. I'll give you an update and some things that might be helpful.
Kind of a tough year to determine what's going on with deer, right, and their natural habitat. We're pushing them down. In fact, one of my neighbors the other day was telling me that the mountain lion is back up in our area, cruising around, so be aware of that. But we're forcing wildlife down. All the snow, it's a pretty tough winter for them. And thus the residents are seeing the results of that. All that. Anything else? Council, you're probably aware of the fact that the Supreme Court of Utah ruled in favor of the Spanish, who was it? Pleasant Grove, regards to the transportation utility fee. I was remanded down to the district court to determine the reasonableness of that fee, but there is some anticipation that the legislature will pass some laws that might prohibit that, but in the meantime, we'll have to have a discussion on how we want to utilize that. As you know, it's in our property tax right now. And it's kind of tough to segregate that for roads, right? Because we have an ordinance that says all property tax is used for public safety.
We haven't been collecting that though.
We moved it over to property tax. So in essence, we just moved it from a fee to a tax, which was what we thought it was at the time. So in essence, we have been collecting it just as part of the property tax. And as we know, our roads do need a lot of attention. So we'll have to have that discussion. Is there anything else this evening? No, we'd be looking for Council Member Ekstrom to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.